Hello, we are live. My name is Jamie J. This is Live with Bottleneck, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business, and you are going to be blown away by the guest I'm going to be talking with today, David Jennings. And so if you bear with me, we'll go ahead and kick off this intro here, and we'll be back in about 38 seconds, and I'll show you how David can help you stop the bottleneck in your business. Hello, welcome. This is Live with Bottleneck. My name is Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business. However, this is not why we are here today. Today, we are here to talk to, I don't know if I could say a good friend. I probably someone that I really look up to, and he was kind enough to get on one of my earlier shows 5 years ago, and he's just knocked it out of the park since. He's done some wonderful things, and this is David Jennings, founder of SYSTEMology, and an incredible book, SYSTEMology, to create time, reduce errors, and scale your profits with proven business systems. And so how come David can help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. In 2016, David successfully systemized himself out of his business, one of Australia's most trusted digital agencies, Melbourne SEO Services. And this is when I talked to him before. This is what he was doing. Through his process, he became a systems devotee, founding systemHUB and SYSTEMology. Today, his mission is to free all business owners worldwide from the daily operations of running their businesses. Does that sound familiar? Oh my gosh, this is going to be fantastic. Without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you, Mr. David Jennings. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Thank you for the kind words and intro. I've been looking forward to the call as well. A lot has changed since we last chatted.
Holy cow, you have just turned the world upside down, and for the better. And I wonder if I don't know how people may not know of you, but if they don't know of you, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you're at from down under there, and maybe a little bit about what you're up to.
Yes, well, I'm an entrepreneur based in Melbourne, Australia, and I used to own a digital agency called Melbourne SEO Services that I built up over the course of 13 years. I was heavily in the operations of that business for about 10 of those years. And then in the final few years, I transitioned, had a CEO step in, built out the leadership team, stepped out of the day-to-day operations. And a big turning point for me for that was we found out we were pregnant, and I didn't want to be that dad who was always too busy, because the business at that point just heavily relied on me. I was generating leads, I was doing sales, I was helping to onboard. I was the bottleneck in my business. So we took some very drastic steps, and I was able to take a bit of time out and time off with the kids, which we now have 2. And then I kind of readjusted and realigned. I think up until this point, I'd always built a business just falling into it, rather than really strategically thinking about the impact that I wanted to have, the type of work that I wanted to do, the type of people that I wanted to work with. And with that time out, that's when I really focused in on systemology, and then realized, hey, I feel like this is where I can have my biggest impact.
You know, when I saw what you did, I was blown away. I was frothing at the mouth, because I'm such a geek for systems, processes, workflows. My favorite saying, thanks to Scott Beebe, is do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. And that was written all over the place on your book and on your site. It's just amazing what you've done. And I'm sure it's been incredibly helpful to so many. What were some of the biggest challenges, before we get into learning a little bit more about your book and stuff? What were some of the biggest challenges after you took that break to make that transition?
I think I was holding a lot of baggage around business systems. I see this quite frequently. A lot of business owners, they have a preconception and notion on what they think a systemized business looks like.
Mm,
Sometimes that'll come from, hey, if you think of a systemized business, what's the first business that comes to mind? And oftentimes it's McDonald's or a franchise
franchise.
business.
Yeah.
And they just imagine this business where every corner of the business has detailed step-by-step processes, and you could take a 15-year-old kid off the street and plug him into your business, and they could then know how to flip a hamburger and tie the rubbish bag on the trash and put it in the bin exactly right. And a lot of people think, oh, that's what a systemized business looks like. But I had a little bit of an insight when I watched the movie The Founder, which talks about Ray Kroc and his story about building up McDonald's. And I remember the early days of them developing the systems. And you see it in the movie. He goes out to this big basketball court and gets chalk out, and he's drawing out where the fryer's going to go and where the cash register's going to go and the drinks machine. And it was so raw. And then it made me realize even McDonald's, they had to start somewhere. And everybody thinks business systems looks like what McDonald's looks like today, which is the product of 60 years worth of work. So we need to kind of wind back the clock. We have to go, how did McDonald's get started? And that was one of the roadblocks. And I had a bunch of others. I mean, everybody has them. Things like, my business is too creative. Why would I systemize it? My team's not going to follow systems and processes, even if I create them, or I don't have time to create them.
I
There's
was
a
just
whole
going
lot
to
of
say that. Yeah. It's
just
too much
baggage that you carry around. And it's not until you actually test those assumptions that you realize that probably about 95% of them are false. And if the person listening to this is a business owner who is creative, who can problem solve and figure things out, you just have to find another way to solve this problem. And sometimes it's not what you think it is. It's not
time.
you sitting down in front of a blank screen trying to write out 500 words on how to issue an invoice out of MYOB. Maybe that's not the best way to create the system.
That's a really good point. There are a lot of preconceived notions, and people see what's happening now. And you said one of the things was time. I've found a lot of people, they are so busy. How in the world can they take the time to create a system? And the old analogy, don't eat the whole elephant at once, one bite at a time, and start taking, some of the easier tasks that don't really necessarily give you energy, but you can kind of delegate those things and get those off your plates a little bit and a little bit. And it may help to kind of formulate some kind of a system. But I'm sure you have something a lot better to add than just one bite at a time from the elephant. What's a good way to get started?
The best thing to think about is you want to figure out what the minimum viable systems are required to get your business to produce the outcome that you want. So when you think about what a business is here to do, a business is here to generate and deliver consistent value to your clients. And that value, then they're going to pay for. And you want to do that consistently, and you want to be able to do it without any key person dependency. So it shouldn't depend on the business owner or any team member for that matter. So one of the steps, and it's the first step in systemology, I've got a tool that I developed called the critical client flow as a way to identify what are the minimum 10 to 15 systems that you need to develop. And it starts off, it's very simple. You can head to systemology.com/academy to get the template, but you don't even need to do that. You don't have to get the book. I can tell you what it is. It's an A4 bit of paper. In the top left-hand corner, you write out who is your target client. So that dream client that'll pay your products and services, refer friends and family. They're a pleasure to deal with. Write that person down. Next, think about what is the primary product or service that you would sell to them. What's the perfect first product that would be a great entry into your business? So identify that. It's the primary target audience and it's the primary product and service. And then the next thing that you want to do is map the linear journey that the prospect and the business goes through to deliver that product or service. So how do you get the attention of that target audience? How do you handle the incoming inquiry? How do you then qualify that prospect? How do you then sell them? How do you issue out an invoice? How do you onboard them? How do you deliver the core product or service? And then how do you get them to come back? Just map that out on an A4 bit of paper. Do it very high level. Each one of those things that I talked about is just one box on the page. Don't put more than 3 or 4 words in each box to explain what it is. And also only identify what you're currently doing, not what you would like to be doing. And that's pretty much where you start. That's the roadmap, because if you can systemize that, and this is what the template looks like. Hopefully it'll pick it up on the video, but it's just like that. Very, very simple. And that helps you to, if we're going to eat this elephant one bite at a time, let's start off on the first 10 to 15 that are absolutely central to delivering that core product or service. Don't worry about finance systems. Don't worry about HR systems. Don't worry about management systems or how to take out the trash systems. Like, put all of that on ice and just focus on the critical client flow, and you'll start to get some traction.
I love that, because it helps get people a place to start. And Aaron Wexler here chimes in. He says, what are the main tasks you outsource in your business?
Yeah, so this will grow and evolve over time. One of the best places to start, and Jamie mentioned it earlier, it's this idea that start with the easy stuff first. It's a little bit counterintuitive. Some people think, the things that are consuming all of my time, I want to start on that. But oftentimes that's, maybe it's the delivery of your product or service. That's oftentimes where you, maybe as the business owner or a key team member, is bringing all of your magic. So you actually want to systemize everything around that. So you want to think about, there are certain things in your business that have to happen to make sure that the client gets a great experience. You need to handle incoming inquiries. You might need to generate proposals and follow up leads. You might need to onboard them and get them to fill, clients to fill out a questionnaire. And so that way you can set them up in your project management platform. Systemize all of that stuff, all of the stuff where you, as the business owner or someone in the leadership team, isn't bringing any magic. Something that an assistant, and that's why I love what Jamie does with the distant assistants. The magical combination is getting great star offshore talented assistants and then combining that with good systems and processes. And I chose my words very carefully there. It's more important to get star A players, because a star A player can make a good system amazing. But if you have average team members and awesome systems, you're still going to get an average result, because it comes down to the average team member. So yeah, you work with someone like Jamie to get amazing team members, combine that with systems, then you actually create and generate a real competitive advantage.
Yeah, it's really important. You just nailed it, because you can have all the systems in the world, and systems are very detail driven, right? It's this and then this and then this, and that helps with expectations and confidence and all of that. But if you get someone to kind of lackadaisically follow these systems and skip steps, balls will start getting dropped. Whereas if you had that A player who's really and really enjoys this, by the way.
and I want to, this is a really important point as well, because I remember reading an interview with Reed Hastings, who developed Netflix, and he talked about the way that they went about systemizing their business. And at first he said, we wanted to systemize every corner of the business and we wanted to make it dummy proof. So he said we systemized everything and we made it dummy proof. But the only problem then was only dummies wanted to work at the business. So he said what we also need to be cognizant of is the systems, if depending on the role, like certain tasks may require real detailed step-by-step. But certain tasks where there's maybe a level of creativity, you want to also give the team member enough room to move that it's more like a framework and guidelines and expectations on what it is that you think is a great result, as opposed to step 1, click file, step 2, press open, step 3. Like, that can be really painful for a very strong team member. So again, you have to think about the role. You have to think about who you're recruiting to do what. So that's an important one, because I see some people, they actually over systemize, and that actually is just as much of a problem, because then your business becomes too bureaucratic. It's too robotic. There's not, you're not really empowering your team members to think, and you want team members to think. This is not a one and done scenario. We're changing the culture in your team. We're getting them to think in terms of systems. We want them to question as they're doing a system or process. Is this right? Like, once they learn how to do the thing, they should also be looking for ways to improve the way that step is done. So it depends on the people.
That's interesting, because Aaron says, how much guidance and freedom do you give a DA? He said VA. I say DA.
so it'll depend on the role that you're recruiting for. In the early days, when you're onboarding a team member, over time you want to develop an onboarding system that basically introduces your team, all team members, to the tools you use, how they should be submitting their end of day emails, how they should be logging in and logging off, how they should be, if they need time off, requesting leave, how they should be learning about the different tools that you use inside your business. You want to have that type of onboarding that everybody goes through. Then once you kind of get going, I mean, for me, any new team member, I always start with an underarm throw. You want to give them a couple of easy tasks that are just really easy, that potentially could be wax on, wax off, to take something off your plate, to see how they go. You want to know, are they able to follow instructions, ask questions when they're not clear, deliver on time, not need to be micromanaged? That's a skill as a business owner that you have to develop, is spotting great talent and then stepping out of the way and giving them enough room to do what they need to do. Now, sometimes, and I see it all the time with distant assistants and virtual assistants, where people haven't had experience managing someone in that capacity, where they over manage, and they're micromanaging to the nth detail. Now, maybe at the start when you're getting going, you do that just to become familiar with the processes and get yourself familiar. But at some point, you have to let go. You have to step back, and you have to trust the team member. Otherwise, it's forever going to be with you. And the whole point of what we're trying to do here is to remove you as the business owner and really any sort of key person dependency.
I love that. And speaking with systems here, one of the things that we try to do here is we are pretty detailed in the workflows that we do. Step 1, step 2, like every time a mouse button is clicked. And what we found is by being that detailed, when we bring somebody else on, their learning curve is greatly reduced. But here's the key. Many of the workflows are done by our team members. And so they're going through there, and they feel empowered that they've contributed to help building the business, and they feel really good about that. So when they do go to bring somebody else on, or a new assistant comes to support them, they're able to say, hey, here's the workflow I created, and this is what I do. And, the team really responds well to this. So do it exactly. And we found it's been really helpful there. And so when we do it for the systems, and what we'll do is they'll do a video, and they'll say, do it like this, this, and this. They'll give it to that person. They'll actually document that. And then they'll set up a meeting and say, how's this? Does this look good? And it's back and forth. So it is very detailed, but we found, I think, a good way to kind of make that mesh.
Again, part of it will depend on the team members and the tasks they're doing. For administrative tasks, the way that you've described it works incredibly well. For some other maybe more senior department head type stuff where we're talking about, overseeing the way that your marketing works or overseeing the way that your operations team works. And I'm talking about more from a project manager perspective. That level up is the level that I'm talking about. You kind of need to learn the distinction between the two. And also, I love the idea of starting with a video first, because what we always suggest is if someone watches the video the first time they do something, if you're showing them how to do something and then the interface changes, if they've watched the video, they get what you're trying to do and they can kind of problem solve to go, oh, the click here button now isn't there. They've moved it down here. And if you've only done detailed step-by-step that says step here, do this, step here, do this, step 3, screenshot, 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 then the team member goes to it and the interface changes. Sometimes you find without a video, the team member goes, oh, I can't follow this system. It's not matching what I'm seeing.
Yes.
So just that's why sometimes we'll record a video and then our systems, the step-by-step is a little bit more high level because we tell them, watch the video the first time you do it. Then next time, you're probably just going to follow the steps high level that are in the system.
Got it. So I love that. So I have a question for you. I have a feeling I already know the answer. However, I'd love to hear how you respond to this. When do you stop building the system?
So what we're actually looking at doing, it speaks to what we talked about earlier with McDonald's. It's a change in culture. So there's never a one and done. Like this is the way that we do things here. And I've got a thing, I talk about it in the book. It's the 4 stages of business systemization. You've got stage number 1, which is the bottleneck. That's usually where the business owner doesn't even recognize that they're the bottleneck. And that's what traps them in this survival mode. Once they recognize that they're the bottleneck, it helps move them through to stage number 2, which I call stationary. That's where the business owner at least recognizes they're the bottleneck, but most of the IP is trapped in their heads and all of their key team members' heads. And the key to move through that stationary level is to extract the IP. Mm-hmm. Then we kind of move to the next stage, which is the scalable stage. Now, for scalable, you've extracted some of the IP, but the knowledge is very patchy. And maybe you've got some systems stored in Dropbox. Maybe you've got some stored in Google Drive. Some are on desktops in people's computers. It's kind of all over the place, and there's no central way to manage that, and it's not paired together with project management platform. So it's quite a clunky solution, but at least you've kind of got some things down. So you're starting to scale. The key for that stage to move through to the final stage is to organize all of that knowledge and get a very slick, smoothly operating set of tools and getting your entire team almost like operating on this operating system. And then the final stage is what we call saleable. And whether you sell or not is irrelevant. It's this idea of building your business to the point at which it was saleable, which means it doesn't have key person dependency. It means that you've got all of the departments with a minimum set of systems that really help it to function to a high level. And the key, and why I started mentioning the 4 stages, the final stage, you've reached it when your team says, this is the way we do things here. When you get to that point and you've got new team members coming on board and you've got new team members coming on board and your old team members are training up and talking to your new team members and they're teaching them your way of doing things. And it's the culture. It's when there's a problem in the business, we don't look to the individual. We first look to the system. Was it in the system? Is it the system's fault? The team member didn't follow the system. Okay, well, that's another problem. But it's always the system's fault first. And we always look for the system's solution. And we get to the point where we understand and recognize every problem in business can be traced back to the system level. And you want to work on the system level. And that is the culture that you want to build in the business. And that's why it's never done.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because that's, things you work so hard on building the foundation, right? the foundation is very important to get done, right? There are certain signals that you can identify that, hey, the foundation is complete. But as the business grows, as things change, as technology changes, as new business comes in, as, whatever happens in the world, I mean, you'd never think that we would experience COVID, right? Things change, and systems need to change with that. So I consider our system a living, breathing document or set of documents.
And one thing that you mentioned about COVID actually represents the biggest opportunity for every person and business owner listening to this. There has never been a better time in history to systemize your business than right now. Because historically what has happened is you'll try and introduce change and you'll say, hey, we're putting systems in place. And the existing team, if you've got one, goes, why do we need to change? Like, what we've already got's already working. Or maybe there are team members that have created a little black box around them where no one really knows what they're doing, and they don't want to shine a light on what they're doing and capture the systems and processes. That then, puts them under the spotlight. But now, because of COVID, there is so much change going on. There's change in team members' home lives, their community lives, and in their work lives. So if you, as the business owner, goes, great, because of COVID, you guys are now working from home and some of you are working remotely, and just our way of doing things is changing. We need to make changes. We need to introduce systems and processes. You will actually get the least resistance. And if you can master working with team members efficiently and effectively through a virtual environment, you actually open up a world of talent as opposed to just talent in your local area. And I mean, this speaks exactly to what Jamie does, because you're able to find, it's not about finding the cheapest team member. It's about finding the best team member at the best rate. So certain tasks and certain jobs, you can get the best team member at a huge discount compared to if you were trying to recruit that position locally. So again, it's about best team member, best rate. It's not just about the best rate. And certain areas over time, you learn certain countries have certain strengths. Look to the Philippines and Southeast Asia for a lot of administrative tasks. Look to Eastern Europe for coding and design. Look to, there are different parts of the world for, you go to the States is fantastic to get return to work mum or dads who might want to hop on the phone and be your business development reps. There are different tasks that you can find the best quality team member at the best rate. And then again, it just becomes a competitive advantage, because a lot of businesses still don't get this. And if you're able to reduce, your wage bill and your overheads by getting people working virtually at a very competitive rate, then that gives you extra margin for error, or it gives you more money that you can tip into your marketing, or that you can get an extra assistant to lighten the load. And then that, again, just completely opens up your trajectory on how quickly you can grow and scale.
I so appreciate that. There's one more question from Aaron. I didn't know if you wanted to address this, because I want to appreciate your time here. But he said, would you ever outsource social media posting? And I mean, yes.
100%. Look me up, David Jennings. You can see my name there on the screen, on LinkedIn. Find me on YouTube. Find me on our Facebook page. I don't manage, even on my personal LinkedIn account, I don't do my social media posting. I have a lady, she's based in Eastern Europe, and she's a rock star. She manages all of that for me. So she writes the posts. I'll have a little bit of a look if I need to tweak it. That's something that I looked at trying to maybe bring to. I did look, because we do have quite a lot of team members in Southeast Asia, but I wanted someone who really grasped social media, and the English language was their first language, and they could really fluently write it. So yes, I pay a little bit more than I might pay for an assistant in Southeast Asia, but I'm paying to get a result that I don't really have to micromanage. and look at my social media, look at the engagement. My biggest play is the LinkedIn play for me at the moment, because that's really where we focus for business owners and working with coaches, consultants, exit planners. And my social media is completely handled by a team member.
Yeah, I love that. And he says that he feels that that's his main way to communicate. And this right here is so his messaging, he's hesitant to pass that off. That's a concern I come across a lot of times, because people, it's their baby. It's they want to make sure that it's their voice and their tone. And that's one of the things that I think systems plays a huge part in, because it addresses messaging and it addresses, that cultural value that, everyone in that company is hopefully aspiring to achieve.
And also, this goes back to that whole idea of great team members or amazing team members versus, the great systems. Both are important, particularly for social media, though. The importance on the way that you recruit is key. Now, you might go, hey, to get the right person, that return to work mum or dad who understands social media, who's based in your country, maybe it is cost prohibitive. And maybe you're like, hey, I can't get someone to do that. Then you start to look for, offshoring it. And then you might go down the other end of the spectrum and then go, oh, but I can't now get them to write in the right voice. Because it feels a little bit clunky. So you're kind of looking at each end of the extreme. Start to think maybe there's something in the middle. Maybe it's not in Southeast Asia. Maybe it's not in your country. Maybe it is in Eastern Europe, and maybe you have to pay a little bit more. But if you find someone who writes well, like you're thinking about an editor or a journalist or someone who loves writing, who's familiar with your particular industry, once you get this right and you find the right team member, they will write better than you can. They'll learn your voice and channel your voice. You'll create some systems and processes and some guidelines on how they write. Yes, there will be some challenges and hurdles early on, but if you get the right person, most definitely you can do this. And I always say to business owners, and it's not just social media, if it relies on you, then your business is broken. At some point, the business is a machine that needs to be able to operate independent of anybody. Because if you have the risk that one of your team members, if they get sick or if you get sick and you can't work, and then that function doesn't happen in your business, that's a risky situation to be in. Like you want to make sure that the business also over time will support an ever-growing group of team members. And it's your job as the business owner to protect all of their jobs. They rely on this business working to make an income, and some of them will use that to support and look after their family. So it is of the utmost importance that you make sure that this business is strong, that it doesn't rely on you. And if you think it can only be done by you, you're actually putting your other team members at risk.
Yeah, yes. I also think, one of the things too is it's scary to let go. But if you can get over that hurdle, knowing that things are not going to happen exactly the way you want them to, know that, like you said, there's going to be some challenges, but that first release, like letting someone else hold your baby for a second, is they say, well, hey, careful. Whoa, hey, hold by the head. Careful. That's my baby. And as long as you can get over that fear, that's a first step that is just going to shoot you.
Yeah. And this is where that whole thing that we said earlier, start with easy first. You'll never manage complex if you can't manage easy. So figure out, well, what are the parts that you can hand over? Maybe you're scared to handle over social media. Maybe you're scared to handle over the delivery of the core product or service. But surely you can hand over issuing out an invoice or scheduling a calendar or following up a client's payment. Like, there's certain functions that are going on in your business that you should be able to hand over. That at least then will give you some confidence. And then you'll grow as a business owner. Then you start to hand over the harder things.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, and thank you so much, Aaron, for jumping in and asking those questions. I appreciate it. David, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah. Look, best thing to do if you head over to systemology.com, if you go /book, you can learn about the Systemology book. I'm extremely proud of this. It's useful and complete. Like I lay out everything in the 7 steps to systemize your business, create time, reduce errors, and scale your profits with proven business systems. From there, there's links to the YouTube, there's links to the social media. You can just head over to Amazon, get a copy of the book. Or if you want to get that template I mentioned, that was systemology.com/academy. So yeah, I'm incredibly passionate about freeing all business owners worldwide from the day-to-day operations of running their business. That's the mission for our business, and that's what I'm really focused on. I want that, and I believe all business owners deserve complete business reliability. And that comes from great team members and great systems. It's once you get the two together. That's why I was more than happy to jump on this call with Jamie, because I love the work that he's doing as well. Like it's a key part of this puzzle.
And David, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. This is fantastic. And I'm reveling in the growth that you experienced, and you're doing everything I aspire, and I assume many others aspire to do. So kudos to you and hats off to you.
Thank you. Thanks again for having us, Jay.
Yeah. Anything else before we wrap?
Look, the biggest thing, hopefully I've just lit a fire inside the business owner to go, systems and processes are important. We already know that. I want to kind of make you realize that they're also kind of urgent. You need to get to work on this on its own. And just because you might think I'm not a systems person doesn't mean you can't run a systems-driven business. It is very natural for the business owner to be a visionary creative and not really like systems and processes. I don't like writing systems and processes. I don't enjoy writing detail step by step. People think of me as the systems guy, but I still don't enjoy doing it. I'm a visionary creative. What I've managed to do is I've realized their importance, and I've fallen in love with the result. I know what business systems brings, and then I've found the creative ways to do this without it being me. And that's the game changer. And that's really what I want for anyone listening to this to really grasp and run with.
Well, I can't thank you enough. It's sage advice, and very welcomed, and hopefully inspiring to some that need it right now. So can you hold on just a quick moment, and I'll go ahead and wrap up? Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Wow. Right. That's I hope you got something in there to help stop the bottleneck in your business. Case in point, when my mother passed away last March, January and February, I was in a disarray, and I went to my assistant and I said, Raina, and before I even finished my sentence, she said, Jamie, don't worry, go take care of your mom. We got this. For the first 2 months of the year, I was not a functioning part of my business. And when I got back, we were doing better than when I left. And that's just a testament to good systems and processes. Go out today and visit systemology.com, buy David's book. I promise you it's going to help you out. You can follow him on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. If you go to, if you want to get his book, you can go to, it's book-systemology.com/book. Is that right? Or systemology.com/book is the right address there. So go definitely check it out today. And I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Speaking of that, we're launched live with Bottleneck. You can go see episodes just like this one, and hundreds of other episodes that we've done in the past. And speaking of books, if you are interested in going and supporting, I'm writing a book. I even got a publisher. Holy cow. You can go to bottleneck.online/book. And it's an Indiegogo campaign. It's pre-selling now. It's going to be coming out to bookstores everywhere in September. So And we're talking about culture and leadership and systems and processes and recruiting and hiring, all kinds of neat stuff. Again, thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Remember, create your own ripple. Go check out David's book today, SYSTEMology.